She has been dead for over 70 years. She is also alive right now, in thousands of laboratories across the world, dividing and multiplying as she has done every 24 hours since 1951. She is in the vaccines that saved your children. She is in the cancer research that may one day save you. She has been to space. She has been cloned more times than any human being in history. She never agreed to any of it. She never knew. Henrietta Lacks was 31 years old, a tobacco farmer from Virginia, and a mother of 5 when she arrived at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore in January of 1951, with a pain she had been ignoring for months. The diagnosis was cervical cancer, aggressive, fast-moving, already advanced. She would be dead within the year. What nobody told her, and what she had no reason to suspect, was that the doctors treating her would take a sample of her tumor tissue, without her knowledge or consent, and send it to a laboratory on the same floor of the same hospital. Her name was Henrietta Lacks. Her cells would be known to science as HeLa. George Guy was the researcher who received the sample. He had spent years trying to keep human cells alive in a laboratory setting, to create what scientists called a continuous cell line, a culture that would keep growing and dividing indefinitely, providing a stable, reproducible supply of human cells for research. Every cell line he had attempted had died. Human cells, it turned out, were fragile things outside the body. They survived for a few days, perhaps a week, and then they stopped. Henrietta's cells did not stop. They doubled every 24 hours. They survived conditions that killed every other cell sample Gay had worked with. They were, in the specific language of biology, immortal, capable of dividing indefinitely without the chromosomal degradation that causes normal cells to age and die. Nobody fully understood why then. The explanation lies in the particular mutation of her cancer, which had activated an enzyme called telomerase that prevented the normal shortening of chromosomes with each division. The cancer that was killing Henrietta was simultaneously creating cells that could not be killed. Gay distributed the HeLa cells to other researchers. Within months, they were in laboratories across America. Within years, they were in laboratories across the world. The first major application came almost immediately. Jonas Salk used HeLa cells to develop and test the polio vaccine, which would go on to effectively eliminate a disease that had paralyzed hundreds of thousands of children. Every vial of polio vaccine that went into every arm in the 1950s existed because of cells taken without consent from a woman dying of cancer in Baltimore. The applications multiplied. HeLa cells were used in the development of chemotherapy drugs. They were used to study viruses, including HIV. They contributed to the mapping of the human genome. They were sent into space on early NASA missions to study the effects of zero gravity on human cells. They were used in research that produced treatments for Parkinson's disease, hemophilia, and influenza. When scientists needed a way to test the COVID-19 vaccines developed in 2020, they used HeLa cells. More than 80,000 scientific papers have been published using HeLa cells. The cells have been sold commercially for decades by biotech companies at prices ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars per vial. The industry built on HeLa cells generates billions of dollars in revenue every year. Henrietta Lacks died on October 4th, 1951. She was 31 years old. She was buried in an unmarked grave in Virginia. Her family did not know her cells had been taken. They did not know the cells were alive. They did not know about HeLa at all. They found out in the 1970s when a researcher contacted them to collect blood samples, needed, it was explained, to help distinguish HeLa cells from other cell cultures that had been contaminated. The family, largely unschooled and with no framework for understanding what they were being told, tried to make sense of the news that their mother and wife was somehow still alive in laboratories around the world. The emotional weight of this knowledge, the grief of loss combined with the impossible information, of continued existence, was something no one had thought to prepare them for, because no one had ever considered telling them. The cruelest detail is this: the family of the woman whose cells formed the foundation of modern medicine could not afford health insurance. While HeLa cells were being sold for profit in laboratories around the world, the children and grandchildren of Henrietta Lacks were navigating the American healthcare system without coverage, the system that her cells had helped transform. The legal and ethical questions that Henrietta's story raises have never been fully resolved. The Supreme Court of California ruled in 1990 that patients do not have property rights over tissue removed from their bodies during medical procedures. The cells that were taken from Henrietta Lacks were, under this framework, not hers once they left her body. The billions generated from their use were not owed to her family. The consent that was never obtained was not legally required under the standards of 1951. In 2023, the Lacks family reached a settlement with Thermo Fisher Scientific, a biotech company that had commercially distributed HeLa cells. The terms were not disclosed. It was the first time any compensation of any kind had flowed from the use of Henrietta's cells to her family, 72 years after the cells were taken. She was a tobacco farmer from Virginia who went to a hospital in pain and was dead within a year. She did not choose to contribute to science. She did not choose to become immortal. She did not choose to spend 70 years dividing in laboratories she never saw, advancing research she never knew about, generating wealth that never reached the people she left behind. She is in every laboratory on Earth. She has been there for 70 years. She will be there after everyone reading this is gone. Her name was Henrietta. She was 31 years old. She was never asked